Jake figured he was halfway through his retirement plan, quiet suburban life. After years designing tactical systems the Pentagon preferred to pretend didn't exist, a humble house on a peaceful cul-de-sac seemed like the perfect fade-to-gray exit. Retirees, yoga moms, weekend grill warriors, this was the camouflage he craved. He just wanted to blend in, maybe tinker with old motorcycles in his garage, occasionally take a remote contract job to keep his skills sharp. Privacy fence, blackout curtains, he took precautions. But trying too hard not to be noticed often attracts the exact wrong kind of attention. Enter Linda. Day 1, clipboard in hand, tape measure deployed, a smile tighter than a drum skin. Jake was still hauling boxes when she marched up and began measuring his mailbox height, muttering about code compliance. "I'll comply with any rule that doesn't violate constitutional law," Jake had offered dryly. Linda did not laugh. Her gaze lingered on his garage, double-reinforced titanium doors, biometric scanner. "What's in there?" she'd asked, suspicion etched onto her face. "Tools," Jake replied, which was true, just incomplete. Within a week, Linda had filed 3 complaints, an unusual humming noise, the battery core stabilizer running diagnostics, suspiciously armored trash bins, they were standard heavy-duty, and intimidating landscaping. He used gravel instead of mulch. Jake played nice, waved, avoided engagement. Surely, she'd find another target. But for Linda, curiosity wasn't just a cat killer. It was a full-time obsession, and Jake's fortified garage was her white whale. Things escalated when the Homeowners Association, under Linda's firm guidance, proposed mandatory garage inspections for community safety and to root out unregistered machinery. It was clearly aimed at him. At the meeting, Jake leaned back. "What exactly are we inspecting for?" "Secret robot armies." A few neighbors chuckled. Linda's eyes locked onto him like a heat-seeking missile. "No one enters my garage but me," Jake stated flatly. "It's not just a hobby space. It's a secure lab, and the city has already signed off on that." From then on, Linda's surveillance became less subtle. Lurking near bushes, slow drive-bys pretending to text. Once, she tossed a frisbee over his fence, asking to pop in real quick to retrieve it. Jake tossed it back. "No need to thank me." She didn't, which brought him to 2:03 a.m. That night. His silent perimeter alarm pinged breach detected, east side. The doggy door he hadn't sealed yet. He didn't own a dog, a minor oversight. He grabbed his tablet, pulled up the garage feed. And there she was, headlamp on, slathered in what looked suspiciously like olive oil, dragging a yoga mat behind her like a makeshift sled across the epoxy floor. She was halfway through his laser tripwire grid. The prototype targeting system chirped online, identifying a heat signature. Jake watched, stunned, as Linda, president of his HOA and a one-woman army of neighborhood micromanagement, crawled past a crate stenciled, "Do not disturb unless tired of breathing." She was muttering about illegal storage, completely unaware that another inch would trigger a non-lethal suppression net designed for cartel raids. It hit him. This woman had blundered into arguably the most secure civilian garage in 3 counties, and it was about to introduce itself rather forcefully. He had 90 seconds before she became the world's angriest, oil-covered spring roll. Jake bolted out of bed, threw on jeans, and slipped through the garage's emergency side door. "System override, freeze net deployment." His voice command cut the sequence just in time. Linda shrieked, scrambling behind a workbench. That's when she saw it. The racks of inert prototypes, the armor plating, the specialized tools marked with military codes. Her eyes went wide. "I knew it. I knew you were making bombs." Jake stared, deadpan. "Lady, that's a smart wrench. It tightens bolts based on vibration analytics. Calm down." But Linda was on a roll, yelling about city ordinances and government-only equipment. "I was with the government," Jake sighed. "And you just broke into what's effectively a federally audited lab." She didn't appreciate that. Trying to make a break for it, she slipped on a coolant spill, knocking over a tactical helmet. It promptly lit up, scanning her face. Jake shut it down before its voice-activated flash beacon deployed. Covered in grease, tangled in comms wire, shrieking about illegal weapons labs and citizens' arrests, she was a mess. Jake calmly helped her up, walked her to the door. "You have 10 seconds to leave before I report this as felony trespassing." Something in his tone, or maybe the quiet whirring of a maintenance drone in the corner, finally registered. She stormed off, muttering threats about the HOA. Jake locked down the garage, sighing. Most people feared burglars. He had Linda. She hadn't just trespassed, she'd tripped alarms in a space that could land them both on watch lists. She thought he was hiding something from the neighborhood. Now, thanks to her, he might have to show the neighborhood exactly who he was. The next morning, Linda stood in his driveway, arms crossed, hoodie still flecked with synthetic netting residue, sunglasses hiding her eyes. Jake sipped coffee on his porch, having anticipated her appearance. "You assaulted me with machines," she hissed. Jake raised his mug. "Morning, Linda. Fancy some olive oil with your legal threats." She huffed and stomped away. His garage was now locked tighter than Fort Knox, triple sealed, diagnostics running every 5 minutes. Linda didn't know her little adventure triggered a level 2 breach protocol, logging her biometrics. Sneezing on his driveway would now trigger an alert. Around noon, 2 local patrol officers arrived a routine follow-up on a disturbance complaint. Jake invited them in, offered coffee, and showed them the security footage. One officer snorted with laughter. The other managed professionalism but mouthed, "Oh my God," when Linda got tangled. Jake gave the vague, consultant, government-adjacent explanation for his work. They nodded, said it made sense given the gear, filed it as a non-incident with a warning for Linda, and asked for a copy of the footage for training purposes. Jake obliged. But Linda wasn't done. An emergency HOA meeting was called. Unconfirmed reports of military-grade installations. At the community clubhouse, Linda stood before a projector displaying "Who is he?" in red Comic Sans. She launched into a tirade about secrecy, explosions. He'd tested a sonic barrier shield once, barely hitting 60 decibels, and unlicensed explosives. After 5 minutes, Jake calmly reminded the board Linda had broken into his property, got caught by a legal anti-theft system, and was now trying to deflect blame. The board ruled they couldn't demand entry without proof of violation, which didn't exist. Linda stormed out, muttering about the FBI. 3 days of peace followed. Then, oddities appeared in his trash: an empty ammo case, wrong caliber, fresh fingerprint smudge, a canister of tactical lubricant with a home-printed label. That evening, HOA board members reappeared, asking about contraband Linda claimed she'd seen him discard. Jake laughed and showed them the footage of Linda, gloved and wearing an HOA enforcement fanny pack, planting the items at 2:11 a.m. The board members left, embarrassed. Jake messaged an old contact, Miller, now a military liaison coordinator. After laughing for a solid 30 seconds, Miller said, "Think it's time we paid your HOA a little visit." The plan formed. Miller's team, disguised as a civilian task force, would conduct a safety certification walkthrough during the next HOA meeting. It would be official, legal, approved under an experimental tech grant, and just theatrical enough. Jake prepped his prototypes. Linda thought she was fighting a backyard mechanic. She didn't realize she'd picked a fight with someone who designed tools to disable facilities in minutes. Linda's next move was pure desperation. A cardboard box on his porch labeled "Illegal Weapons Evidence." Inside, 2 paintball guns, a light-up toy grenade, and a badly written manual titled "How to Make Dangerous Stuff." At the next HOA emergency review, she dumped the contents onto the table. "See? Dangerous." One board member accidentally set off the toy grenade's blinking lights. Jake calmly presented his lab certification, followed by security footage of Linda packing the box behind her garage, then falling into her recycling bin while sneaking back. A board member gently asked Linda if she needed mental health support. She fled, muttering about fake documents. That night, a system audit revealed a tiny drone lodged under his shed's roof, broadcasting weekly. Inside, a note reading, "Keeping an eye on you. You can't hide from the HOA." Jake contacted Miller again. "We still owe you for that Corsica incident." "What are you thinking?" Jake explained. Within 2 days, a community security demonstration was arranged, backed by a legitimate city contractor. They'd show off deterrence gear and validate Jake's garage. While they planned, Linda handed out flyers about war machines, hosted backyard Q&As on suburban threats, and filed a noise complaint about the stabilizer hum. The city officer found it quieter than a refrigerator. leaving Linda in tears. The demonstration day arrived. Folding chairs, hot dogs, the whole neighborhood. Miller's crew, in plain clothes, unloaded sleek gear. They demonstrated a vault door like Jake's, then a drone detection system. It pinged. This model intercepted a crude, homemade device just last week. Miller smiled politely, as Linda visibly paled, recognizing her drone's signature. Finally, Miller introduced Jake, retired technical advisor. Jake activated a small, camouflaged bot that rolled out, waved a tiny arm, and projected a hologram. Neighborhood Watch 2.0. Gasps, applause, one faint scream, Linda's. Miller then handed the HOA a formal certification. Jake's garage exceeded safety standards. Neighbors clapped Jake on the back. Linda vanished. Later, logs showed Linda trying the garage lock again. The retinal scanner denied her, displaying, "Access denied. Please contact administrator." Or go home, Linda. She then hired 3 men in knockoff tactical gear. Jake invited them in, sat them down with sodas, and showed them drone footage of their own approach. After hearing about the auto defense routines they'd nearly triggered, they asked Jake for a job designing systems and promised Linda a refund. The next HOA meeting was packed. Linda arrived late, clutching a folder. She demanded to present new evidence, a typed report, intercepted audio, classified equipment, actually a nonsensical training loop Jake used for soundproofing tests like deploy the toaster drone, and grainy drone photos. Jake countered with his permits, clearances, Miller's official report, and crystal-clear footage of Linda climbing her fence to take those photos. The board president sighed. "Karen, unless you have something concrete." Just then, Miller entered, in full formal attire with government ID, flanked by city emergency preparedness officials. "Lieutenant Miller," he announced. "We recently completed a safety review." He presented a sleek report praising Jake's setup. "Mr. Rex's systems are exemplary. We've asked him to assist with designing prototype civilian safety shelters." He paused. "That includes systems detecting unauthorized surveillance, like drones, bugs, which, incidentally, is how we became aware of illegal monitoring originating from this community." He didn't name her. He didn't need to. Linda sank into her chair. Afterward, neighbors swarmed Jake requests for sensors, drone advice. One called him Batman. Linda vanished from public view. A week later, a summons arrived. Small claims court, emotional distress from tactical equipment, and the go home, Linda message. In court, Linda claimed combat robots and national security scapegoating. Her evidence? Common sense. Jake presented his footage, permits, clearances, Miller's letter, and Linda's own drone telemetry log. The judge dismissed the case, advising Linda against trespassing into high-security garages. Miller texted, "Checkmate." Peace settled over the cul-de-sac. The quiet felt almost strange. Then, the neighborhood decided to celebrate. Mr. Halier brought brisket. Sheila hosted a potluck in Jake's honor. Memes of Linda under the laser grid circulated, Linda versus the Pentagon. The HOA presented Jake an honorary HOA defense specialist certificate and announced updated bylaws closing the loopholes Linda exploited. But Linda had one last, desperate play. Days later, an alert, motion on his roof. It was Linda, midday, in black, climbing onto his porch with a ladder, trying to serve more legal papers herself. Jake let the system handle it. Speakers activated. "Hi, Linda. Please step away. This is your third uninvited visit." Recorded. Notification sent to local precinct. She froze, tiptoed away, and walked right into the arriving patrol car alerted by the system. They handed Jake the envelope, another small claims attempt, with a shrug. "Toss it," Jake laughed. "Got more important things to do." Like the motion-activated colored mist sprinkler he installed near the mailbox, Linda cloud. The cops chuckled. "You've got fans at the station." That drone footage was gold. A letter arrived from the city's public safety commissioner, inviting Jake onto a civilian advisory council for security tech integration. He accepted. 3 weeks later, Linda sold her house, reportedly moving to a gated community run by retired lawyers. The new couple asked Jake for help with motion lights. They brought cookies, no clipboards. Months passed. The neighborhood thrived in the quiet. Jake helped neighbors, his garage becoming less a fortress, more a resource, even hosting workshops. One evening, watching a kid fly a drone nearby, Jake felt a sense of settled peace. Linda thought she was uncovering a dark secret. Instead, she'd inadvertently activated the very thing she feared, a quiet, prepared, unshakable force of logic that ended up becoming the neighborhood's unlikely guardian. The garage hummed softly, a reminder that poking the wrong bear could lead to nets, lasers, olive oil, and the complete implosion of one's own ridiculous expectations.